everybody, Miss Kelly here for today's virtual program. Today we are doing some fairy tale themed science. All right, so these are science experiments that today will kind of have a little bit to do with magic. You know, how we can do things with science that almost look like they are magic. And that's kind of what a lot of fairy tales are about, right? Magic. Unbelievable things happening. Okay? So, today we have 3 different experiments we're going to do. So they all kind of have an element of magic to them. Okay? To participate from home, you're going to need water, salt, pipe cleaners, a glass jar, or you can just use a glass too, a large glass. For our second experiment, you're going to need a plate, okay, nice smooth plate, okay. A glass one will work, or white ones work good too. You'll see why once we get going. Okay. A dry erase marker. Okay. And for our final experiment, you're going to need a balloon. Okay. A glass container with a thin neck. Like you can use like a old-fashioned pop bottle. Okay, or I'm using a little vase today. Okay. So that's kind of what you need to join in with me today. We're going to get started in a minute. We'll give everybody some time to pop on here. Okay. Did anybody get a chance to try last week's experiments? Let me know what you think about them. Okay. How they went. If you tried them at home, I'd love to hear about that. Okay. And in just a second, we'll get going with our experiments. Okay. All right. So, I'm going to get a cart here to set everything on. Okay. Our first experiment is going to be growing magic crystals. Okay. This is a pretty easy experiment. You can do it a couple different ways. Okay. The way we're going to do it today is with salt. Okay. You can also use sugar. Okay. And that's going to kind of make almost like a rock candy. Okay. You can use this stuff called borax, which is for your laundry, but it works really well with a lot of science stuff too. Okay. All right. You guys ready to make some magic crystals? All right. Anybody ever make magic crystals before? All right. If you have, I'd love to hear about that. Okay. If you are just tuning in, we are doing some science today. Okay. A lot of science that has to do a little bit with magic. Okay. Some cool tricks that might seem like magic, but they're really just science. Okay. So, to grow our magic crystals, okay, we're going to take our jar and we're going to fill it with water. Okay. Not quite all the way to the top. All right. We're going to fill it with water. Okay. Now we're going to need our salt to dissolve in the water. Okay. And that works better if the water is warm. Okay. So I'm going to put the water in the microwave. Okay. This is something that you will probably need the help of a grown-up for. Okay. All right. I'm just going to get it nice and warm. Do about 30 seconds. Okay. So if you're just tuning in, we are making magic crystals for our first science experiment. Okay, we're using salt, and water, pipe cleaners, and a wooden dowel. Okay. All right. Make sure I use something to keep my hands from getting too hot when I take out the glass jar. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is basically pour in the salt until it stops dissolving. So I'm going to pour in a lot of salt. Okay. Stir it in there. Let it dissolve in the water. Okay. You want to make sure you add a lot of the salt or borax or whatever you are using to dissolve in the water. Okay. Now stuff dissolves better in hot water because the molecules, little tiny parts of the water, are moving faster, so they kind of move everything around a little better. Okay. So add a little bit more. Make sure we have lots and lots of salt in there. Okay. All right. Now we're going to use our dowel and our pipe cleaners. Okay. I'm going to take our pipe cleaner and I'm going to wrap it around a wooden dowel. Okay. You want to make sure it's going down nice and straight. Okay. And then it's not too long. We don't want anything touching the very bottom of our jar, okay? Because once the crystals start to grow, we don't want it to get stuck to the bottom of the jar. Okay? Twist that one a little more. Okay. Then I'm just going to put these in our water. Okay? And you're going to leave those for a couple days and your crystals should start to grow. Okay. From what I've read, the borax crystals will probably grow the fastest. Okay. It does take several days for the salt or sugar crystals to grow. Okay. But this is kind of what it's going to look like. I don't know if you can see on the very edge of our pipe cleaners, we've got some crystals growing. Okay. So that is how we make our magic crystals. Okay. All right, ready for our next experiment? Okay. Our next experiment is a magic picture. Okay. Now, the easiest thing to start out with to draw, okay, is like a stick figure. Okay. So I'm going to draw just a little stick figure here. Okay. Got my little stick figure. Okay. If you want to get really into our fairy tale theme, you can draw a fairy tale themed picture. Okay. You don't want to draw something too complicated because then it might not work as well. And you'll see why. Okay. So, what I'm going to do now is I am going to slowly pour water on my picture. Okay. Slowly will work the best. kind of see as you are pouring, that your picture will start to lift up. Okay. Okay. And it will start to move around. All right, now let you see a little better. Okay. See how our picture is moving around a little bit? Our little stick figure. Okay. And that is our magic picture. All right, and dump that out. And we're going to move on to our next trick. Okay. All right. Our next trick is called balloon in a bottle. Okay. For this one, we're going to need our thin-necked glass container. And I'm going to put it just in this bowl. Okay. And we're going to need a balloon, of course. Okay. And this is another one where we'll be using hot water. Okay. So you want to make sure you have the help of a grown-up. All right. Okay. We don't need as much water for this one. Okay. But we're going to want to make sure we get it nice and hot. Okay. So I'm going to do it for, let's say, 2 minutes. Okay. Now this experiment also has to do with hot water. Okay. It all has to do with air pressure, okay, and heat. And it's a really cool one to try when you get it right, because it looks really neat. Okay. All right, I'm gonna watch to see if my water is boiling yet. I think it is. Let's see, a little more, another 30 seconds. Make sure it's nice and hot so our trick works correctly. If you've tried this trick before, you'll know it's a pretty cool one. I think the water's hot enough now. Alright. I'm going to pour our water, just a bit of it, into our bowl. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put our balloon over the top. Now this is another thing where I have to be very careful because it might be hot, and we're going to want to make sure our balloon is centered over the top of our container. And can see that the hot water is condensing in our container. You can also see that at the very top, the balloon is tightening. Okay. All right. And we'll give it a minute, see what it does next. Okay. It almost starts to suck the balloon into the container. Okay. As it gets hot, and we can see it going down. And it's getting sucked into our bottle. Isn't that cool? Yeah. All right. Now, this can be set done with different kinds of glass containers. You can experiment and see which works the best. Okay, try it out. Okay. All right. That is our balloon in a bottle. Okay. Thank you so much for watching today. Okay. Next week we will have a program on origami. So I hope you can tune in then. Okay. We also are having a really cool wizard science show on the 31st for Harry Potter's birthday. That is going to be a Zoom event, so you will need to register to get the link. Okay? All right. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.